Okay, so you want to own a laundromat. Find a building, fill it with washing machines, and watch the money roll in. That's the plan in your head, and it's not a bad plan. Walk into any laundromat on a weekend afternoon, and it looks like a localized mint. People are feeding bills into change machines or tapping credit cards, washing cylinders or spinning, and the owner is nowhere to be seen. Passive income at its finest. A recession-proof cash machine. Except, it is not a passive cash machine. That dream is a highly leveraged industrial operation masquerading as a simple retail storefront. Behind those spinning stainless steel drums lies an upfront capital expenditure that rivals opening a specialized medical clinic, coupled with the ongoing operational brutality of a manufacturing plant. The harsh truth: you are not printing money. You are purchasing rapidly depreciating heavy machinery and entering into a high-stakes race against utility bills, commercial landlords, and mechanical failure. The industry average return on investment, ROI, sits between 20% and 30%, which sounds phenomenal on paper. Yet, according to industry analysts, up to 20% of new laundromat owners fail or are forced to sell at a massive loss within the first 5 years. They do not fail because people stop washing clothes. They fail because they fundamentally misunderstand the underlying economic model of the business. They think they are opening a passive retail store, only to realize they have become leveraged operators of an industrial water and gas processing facility. If you ask a novice what a laundromat sells, they will tell you it sells clean clothes. This is economically false. If a consumer simply wanted clean clothes, washing them by hand in a bathtub is essentially free. A laundromat sells two distinct, intangible products: utility arbitrage and simultaneity. Utility arbitrage. As an owner, you operate as a micro-utility broker. You purchase commercial-rate water, electricity, and natural gas in massive wholesale quantities. You then repackage and resell these utilities to the consumer in micro-increments, a 30-minute wash cycle or a 7-minute dry cycle, at a staggering markup. The machine is merely the conduit for this transaction. Your profit margin is entirely dependent on the delta between your commercial utility rate and the price you charge at the machine. When municipal water rates or global natural gas prices spike, your delta shrinks instantly unless you raise prices, which risks driving away your price-sensitive demographic. Simultaneity, time arbitrage. The domestic washing machine processes 1 load per hour. A family of 5 generates roughly 6 loads of laundry per week. Doing this at home consumes an entire day of sequential processing. The laundromat allows a customer to rent 6 machines concurrently, compressing 6 hours of domestic labor into a single 45-minute window. You are not selling soap and water. You are selling the localized monopolization of time. The consumer is willing to pay a premium, often upward of $30 to $40 a week, specifically to buy back their Sunday. You are monetizing their time scarcity. The facade of the easy laundromat shatters the moment you look at a pro forma financial statement. The barriers to entry are heavily fortified by immense, often invisible capital expenditures, CapEx, and predatory lease structures. The equipment debt. A standard 2,500 square foot laundromat requires approximately 40 washers and 40 dryers. Commercial front-load washers are not consumer appliances. They are heavy industrial assets. A 60-pound capacity commercial washer costs between $7,000 and $10,000. Equipping an empty room easily demands $300,000 to $500,000 in equipment alone. Because most individuals do not have $500,000 in liquid cash, this is financed. Immediately, the business is burdened with a suffocating monthly debt service that must be paid regardless of foot traffic. Infrastructure and municipal impact fees. You cannot simply plug a 60-pound commercial washer into a standard wall outlet and residential drain. The build-out requires trenching concrete floors for massive drainage troughs, installing 2-inch commercial gas lines, and outfitting the building with 100-gallon rapid recovery commercial water heaters. This infrastructure build-out frequently costs an additional $200,000. Worse are the municipal tap fees or impact fees. Because laundromats strain city sewer systems, municipalities charge a fee just to connect the plumbing, In cities like Los Angeles or Chicago, tap fees can range from $2,000 to $8,000 per machine. A 40-machine store could face $100,000 to $300,000 in non-recoverable government fees before opening the doors. The depreciation clock. Heavy machinery has a finite lifespan, typically 10 to 15 years under commercial strain. This creates a relentless depreciation clock. According to the Modified Accelerated Cost Recovery System, MACRS, you can write down these assets for tax purposes, but the physical reality remains. By year 10, your machines will begin failing. If you have not strictly allocated a portion of your cash flow into a CapEx reserve fund, you will not have the capital to replace the $10,000 machines. To understand how a laundromat actually generates its profit, we must dissect the revenue streams. The economics dictate a clear hierarchy. Washers generate the gross revenue, dryers protect the margin, and alternative services drive the net profit. The mathematics of turns per day, TPD. The primary metric of a laundromat is TPD, how many times a machine is used per day. The industry average is 3 to 4 turns. For a store with 40 washers averaging $5 per wash, revenue equals 40 machines times 4 turns per day, times $5 equals $800 per day. Washers are high revenue but extremely resource intensive, consuming 15 to 40 gallons of water per cycle. The dryer margin and psychological pricing. Dryers are where the utility arbitrage is most aggressive. A dryer operates on natural gas and requires minimal maintenance compared to water-bearing washers. Customers routinely over-dry their clothes out of fear of leaving with damp garments, feeding extra quarters, or swiping their cards for unnecessary cycles. Furthermore, modern operators have migrated from coin-operated machines to closed-loop digital card systems, for example, FastCard or NIAX. This introduces 2 massive economic advantages. Frictionless spending. When paying with physical quarters, inserting 26 coins for a $6.50 wash is physically painful. The consumer feels the loss of wealth. Tapping a card is frictionless. Industry data shows that converting a store to card/digital payments increases average gross revenue by 15% to 22% almost overnight. Breakage. Customers must load a minimum of $10 or $20 onto a store-specific card. Most transactions do not leave a zero balance. A customer might have $1.75 left on a card they lose or forget in a drawer. This unused balance, known in finance as breakage, is 100% pure profit margin for the owner, often accounting for 3% to 5% of total gross revenue with zero associated cost of goods sold, COGS. The ultimate margin, wash and fold labor. Arbitrage, the true cash cow for a modernized laundromat, is the drop-off, wash and fold service. Here, the owner utilizes idle machines during off-peak hours, Tuesday mornings, and leverages minimum wage labor. By charging $1.50 to $2.50 per pound, a 20-pound load yields $30 to $50. The utility cost is identical to a self-serve wash, roughly $1.50, and the labor cost per load is roughly $3. The gross margin on wash and fold frequently exceeds 70%, transforming a fixed asset facility into a high-yield service business without purchasing a single additional machine. The greatest threat to a laundry business is the delusion that technology can easily override physical logistics and real estate realities. Case study. The collapse of Washio, $16.8 million burned. In 2013, the venture capital world decided laundry was a software problem. A startup named Washio launched, promising to be the Uber for laundry. Customers would tap an app, a ninja contract driver would pick up their dirty clothes and return them clean 24 hours later. Washio raised $16.8 million from top-tier VC firms and expanded rapidly across major U.S. cities. By 2016, Washio was dead, shutting down operations entirely. Why? They fundamentally misunderstood the unit economics of the laundry industry. Washio was a logistics company masquerading as a laundry company, They did not own the heavy assets. They outsourced the actual washing to commercial facilities. Their financial failure was rooted in a fatal algorithm. The customer acquisition cost, CAC, and the logistical cost of 1,099 drivers making round trips through dense urban traffic completely eradicated the gross margin of a bag of laundry. You cannot subsidize the transportation of low-value, heavy wet textiles using expensive gig labor. Washio burned millions trying to bypass the heavy asset, localized reality of the laundromat, proving that in this sector, physical infrastructure and localized monopoly trump software. The structural trap. The zombie laundromat. For the physical store owner, the fatal risk is the commercial lease. Most laundromat operators do not own the building. They lease it under triple net, NNN terms. Consider an owner who signs a 10-year lease. By year 8, the original equipment is aging and maintenance costs are spiking. The landlord, observing the steady foot traffic, realizes the tenant is a captive hostage. The landlord knows that the $200,000 spent on trenches, plumbing, and electrical build-out cannot be moved. Those are leasehold improvements that now belong to the building. The cost for the laundromat owner to relocate is effectively the cost of starting a brand new business. Knowing this, the landlord aggressively hikes the rent by 30% to 40% upon lease renewal. The operator cannot afford to move, nor can they afford the new rent, while simultaneously servicing the debt to buy new machines. The business enters the zombie phase. It generates just enough cash flow to pay the landlord and utility companies, but zero net profit for the owner. Eventually, the machines die, the owner walks away bankrupt, and the landlord inherits a fully built-out laundromat infrastructure to lease to the next unsuspecting dreamer at a premium. The economics of owning a laundromat present a masterclass in the difference between gross cash flow and net profitability. A store grossing $350,000 a year might sound like a gold mine, but once debt service, 25% utility costs, commercial NNN rent, insurance, and equipment maintenance are deducted, the actual net margin often shrinks to a modest 15%. To succeed in this industry requires ruthless operational efficiency, a mastery of utility arbitrage, and ideally, ownership of the underlying real estate. Without the property deed, you are merely a tenant financing the landlord's mortgage through the microtransactions of your neighborhood. Ultimately, owning a laundromat is not a passive stream of quarters falling from the sky. It is a highly illiquid, capital-intensive wager on commercial real estate and industrial machinery, disguised as a mundane neighborhood chore.
Hey everyone, huge thanks for watching. If you liked it, please hit that red like and subscribe button over here. Thanks again.